Hi, and welcome to Voice with Julia. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about vibrato. And just as a disclaimer, if you're not into controversial vocal subjects, I would stop your video right now.
Voice with Julia, change your voice, change your life.
As an opera singer, obviously I believe in vibrato as a necessity of part of good vocal production. However, I think that there are severe misconceptions as to what vibrato is and what it should sound like aesthetically in an opera singer. And there's a big misunderstanding about what mechanisms move and create vibrato and what mechanisms should be stable. Maybe you've heard from a well-meaning teacher, vibrate, the voice should always be in motion, and as an effort of a good student, you might even kind of make that happen. You might sing, oh, and then the teacher says, that was great, that's moving, that's wonderful. But let's look at that more closely, because if you'll notice what I just did there, if I put my hand on my larynx, I will feel that my larynx starts to do this with each repetition of vibrato cycle. Okay, and this is what can create instability in a voice, especially if you keep moving in this direction. So it's kind of the sound that you can get away with for a little while until it's sort of too late. So if this bigger laryngeal cartilage shouldn't be moving when we're producing vibrato, what does move? And how do we ride that balance between allowing our voice to fluctuate in pitch as it should in classical singing and holding it too tightly? So where is that line and how do we find that balance? Ideally, vibrato should just be created by the vocal cords and the free release of the movement of the vocal cords. So we should not be kind of trilling our bigger laryngeal structures while producing vibrato. This might seem obvious in theory, but I just invite you all to go sing a line of whatever it is that you're singing, put your hand on your larynx, and let me know what's happening. If you're feeling it kind of move around a lot, chances are you're employing too much cartilaginous movement to be producing your vibrato. One of the best ways you can start gaining control over that overactive larynx is on the last note of any phrase that you're about to sing. When the support kind of wants to let up, the larynx will start to flop around a little bit more. So again, in our Caro mio ben example, if we do and we let it flop around, or we can do and I am thinking, all I'm doing is really thinking that I'm going to kind of pull back on that note and not allow it to sort of sit down. So I call this squatting over the toilet, okay? Because if you're in a public restroom and you don't want to sit down on the toilet, you're going to kind of squat and you're going to engage your quads. So you're not just like letting yourself sit down. And this is the feeling I want you to have mentally when you're going to that last pitch of a phrase. I don't want you to feel like you're just relaxing everything and sitting down onto that note, because that's going to deregistrate it and it's going to kind of destabilize the larynx, and that's what's going to give you that kind of shake. What is the difference in sound between that one that I produced where the thyroid cartilage was kind of moving and this other one that I'm suggesting where these structures stay stable? So if you'll hear in the first example, I did something like this. Right? And in the second example, I want you to hear so you can hear that in the second example, I definitely still had vibrato, but it was not being produced in the same way. And actually, the example that I did the second time around shows that I've had a very secure, very stable laryngeal structure, and then the vibrato was able to kind of sit on top of that instead of being embedded into the structure of the larynx. The other mind trick you can sort of play on yourself is thinking that you're going to sing without vibrato, but without actually holding any of these components. So you're going to think no vibrato and allow the ribs to stay out on that last note, allow that sound to pull back and don't sit down. And that will kind of be your cue to keep that whole structure very stable and allow the cords to vibrate freely. So like anything else in singing, fixing this problem can be a lot of brain work, because 9 times out of 10, especially if you are in control of the tongue placement, if you're in control of how your embouchure is moving in that kind of vertical direction, if you're in control of the soft palate lift, of the bigger structures of the face and the neck, and you're still having this vibrato problem, then probably you need to just look up here and how you're thinking about vibrating the pitch. So what are some of the benefits to fixing this vibrato problem? Some of the benefits are pitch accuracy. You're going to be so much more in tune and be able to sing notes very cleanly. So it's just overall better. Number 2, you're going to have a more secure larynx, which means easier time transitioning registers and going through your passaggio. Okay, and actually number 3, your range is going to increase because when the larynx isn't flopping around, we have the ability to extend and kind of stretch from that stable laryngeal place. If you make this a practice, that you're really constantly staying on top of what your vibrato is doing, you're going to have so much more vocal longevity. You're not going to develop that shake that we hear so often in aging singers. And that is really primarily because of this fine muscle control. So the more you can stay on top of this on a daily basis, the better your voice is going to sound year after year after year. I know this is a very controversial subject because so many people are working to spin the voice and keep everything loose and moving, but too much of a good thing can also work in the opposite direction. So I'm all about finding balance and kind of knowing what elements of that looseness, that spin, that freedom are right and what elements are detrimental. So you're going to have to kind of play around with that balance in your own voice and record yourself often. Listen, is there an instability in the pitch? If you're hearing you're going to know when you record that, oh, okay, that is not a clear pitch, as opposed to there's a clear pitch right there. So this is the kind of work that is sort of nitty gritty and a little bit nebulous, okay? And it's going to require patience on your part and a real keen aesthetic ear. You need to know what you're listening for and what you want to listen for. Because in all of this work that we do vocally, we are primarily developing fine motor control, and that takes a lot of brain work up here. So play around with these ideas, and I really want to hear how some of this has worked for you. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.